The movie starts with a flashback. A young girl named Madeline Swan is looking after her sick mother when a masked man comes to their house. Madeline spots him at the window and hides. The man comes in and introduces himself as Safin and tells her mother he's looking for Mr. White because Mr. White killed his family. When her mother doesn't know where Mr. White is, he shoots her. Madeline hides under the bed, and when Safin finds her, she shoots him and pulls him outside, thinking he's dead, but he's still alive. Madeline runs away over a frozen lake, but she falls in. Safin finds her and decides to save her, so he breaks the ice and rescues her. In the present day, Madeline is living with James, and they are in a romantic relationship in Matera. They are happy, but Madeline is aware that James still thinks about his past love, Vesper Lind, whose grave is nearby. She suggests that James should move on from Vesper, just as she decides to let go of her past with Safin. She does this by writing "Masked Man" in French on a paper and then burning it. The next morning, James goes to Vesper's tomb to finally forgive her. He also has a piece of paper ready to burn that says, "Forgive me" on it. Before leaving, James sees a Spectre calling card nearby, and seconds later, the tomb explodes. James recovers quickly enough to start running, only for assassins, led by a man with a cybernetic eye called Primo, to go after him. They start fighting and James chokes him, asking him, who told him he is here. The man replies, the girl with whom he is living is the daughter of that man, whom he killed many years ago. James then takes a motorcycle and heads back to his room to get Madeline. He accuses her of having him set up since the assassins should not know where to have found him. He gets Madeline in the Aston Martin and ends up in a high-speed chase across Matera, with James getting assassins to crash their vans or get shot. The villains corner James and Madeline in the middle of the plaza, with her begging James to make a move while he sits there and lets the thugs shoot at the car. When he sees that Madeline is telling the truth, he activates the machine gun in the car and kills nearly every assassin except for Primo. Once they are in the clear, James takes Madeline to a train station where he puts her on a train and parts ways with her due to his trust in her being destroyed. She tearfully tries to catch him as the train begins to depart, but he is long gone. 5 years later, a different group of killers sneak into a lab owned by MI6. They work for Safin, who warns the lead scientist, Valdo Obrachev, about the incoming danger. The killers capture Obrachev and another scientist, while harming the rest of the team. They are there to acquire Heracles, a deadly bioweapon that can be used as a poison through skin-to-skin contact. Once they get it, they eliminate the other scientist and take Obrachev away. MI6 learns of this, and Moneypenny talks to M about it, but he doesn't share much about Heracles. Instead, he wants to know where 007 is. James is now retired from MI6 and living in Jamaica. He runs into Felix Leiter and his colleague Logan Ash. They go to a nightclub where Felix tells James about Obrachev's capture and the break-in to the lab. James has little interest in getting involved in recovering Obrachev, and he also tells Felix he has a suspicious feeling about Ash. As James tries to go home, he finds that his car isn't working. He is approached by a woman called Nomi, who gives him a ride on her motorcycle. When they get back to his place, she quickly drops her facade to reveal that she is not only an agent with MI6, but also the new 007. She tells him that Obrachev is her target and for James to stay out of her way. M and Bill Tanner discuss retrieving files stolen from the lab with Q. Meanwhile, James contacts M to inquire about Obrachev and Spectre. M abruptly ends the call and expresses to Tanner his intention to reach out to Blofeld, who is imprisoned in Belmarsh and appears to be talking to himself. Felix sends James to Cuba to meet a CIA agent named Paloma. Together, they sneak into a Spectre meeting where Blofeld is using a robotic eye like the one Primo uses to observe the party. Meanwhile, Obrachev is coerced into setting up Heracles in the facility, but he secretly switches a vial from the device. When James and Paloma realize Blofeld's scheme, the party turns hostile towards James. The Heracles poison is released, meant to kill James but unexpectedly affecting only the Spectre agents, causing them to die gruesomely. James and Paloma remain unharmed and face off against gunmen, including Primo. Nomi arrives to capture Obrachev. After battling henchmen, Paloma gets a car and spots Obrachev attempting to escape. She crashes into the structure he's descending, causing it to collapse on her car. James rescues Obrachev and leaves with him on a worn-out plane, parting ways with Paloma after she gives him a cigar for Felix. James takes Obrachev to Felix's boat to meet with him and Ash. When they start questioning Obrachev about Heracles and why it didn't affect James, Ash gets uneasy and tells Obrachev to stay quiet. However, Felix makes him to speak up. Then, Obrachev reveals that he altered the DNA sample during the poisoning to target Spectre instead of James, and he claims M helped to create Heracles. When James questions how Blofeld knew he'd be there, Obrachev looks at Ash and James realizes Ash is a double agent working with Obrachev. Ash then shoots Felix and flees with Obrachev, and sets up bomb in the ship, blowing a hole in the ship to sink it. Despite James's efforts to help Felix, they know his wound is too severe. Felix accepts his fate, and James sadly leaves him behind before managing to escape himself. James returns to MI6 to confront M, demanding access to Belmarsh to speak to Blofeld. M refuses and dismisses James when their argument escalates. M then calls Nomi and instructs her to have everything in Blofeld's cell scanned. As James leaves, Moneypenny offers her assistance. That night, they visit Q at his home while he's preparing to have dinner with his boyfriend. They ask Q to analyze the recovered files, revealing data on Spectre targets, with Blofeld as the sole remaining target. Additionally, there are numerous files on individuals and their DNA samples worldwide. James urges Q to help him gain access to Belmarsh, but Q mentions that only one person has the authority to do so. Next, we see Madeline, heading to her job as a psychiatrist. Upon arriving at her office, she encounters Safin, although she doesn't recognize him at first. He startles her by presenting his broken mask. When she realizes who he is, he reveals that he requires her assistance for something, leaving her frightened. Later, James meets with the entire MI6 team to be reinstated as a 00 agent. They review files concerning a Spectre operative's funeral, where 5 family members who came into contact with him have died from the Heracles poison. M reveals that Heracles was initially designed to target specific individuals through contact, sparing those it doesn't affect. However, it has been weaponized using nanobots to target not only the intended victims, but also anyone connected to them. Finally, M approves James's meeting with Blofeld to gather information. Later, James visits Belmarsh and reunites with Madeline. He tries to shake her hand, but she refuses. When Blofeld is brought out to them, Madeline becomes anxious and tries to leave. James attempts to stop her by grabbing her wrist, but she pulls away and exits. Left alone with Blofeld, he mocks James and confesses to orchestrating the attack at Vesper's tomb to deceive him into believing Madeline betrayed him. Blofeld's taunting pushes James to the brink, and he grabs Blofeld with the intention of attacking him. Tanner intervenes to stop James, but they soon discover that Blofeld has been fatally poisoned by James's touch, and he dies. James discovers he has been infected with Heracles after touching Madeline, and there's no way to remove it. Madeline disappears, and nobody can find her. James sets out on his own to locate her and eventually finds her at her childhood home. To his surprise, he learns that Madeline has a daughter named Mathilde, although Madeline denies that Mathilde is James's child. After tucking Mathilde into bed, Madeline reveals Safin's true identity to James. Blofeld ordered Madeline's father to eliminate Safin's entire family, leaving Safin as the sole survivor with severe facial injuries. Madeline also mentions an island that belonged to Safin's family, which now serves as his headquarters. James shares this information with Q, who informs MI6 that the island is situated between Japan and Russia. Meanwhile, Nomi is searching for Ash, but James realizes that he and Safin's other allies are near to them. To ensure their safety, James evacuates Madeline and Mathilde from the house. On the road, Safin's assassins pursue them. James manages to force 2 of them off the road. They arrive in a jungle and some bikers tries to shoot James, but Madeline kills him. He then hides Mathilde and Madeline there and goes to confront them. James engages the assassins in a firefight and sets traps for a couple of them. Eventually, Ash emerges to personally confront James. James flips his van, causing Ash to crash. Despite Ash pleading for help, James, seeking vengeance for Felix's death, pushes Ash's van over him. He then hears the gunshot near Madeline and discovers that Madeline and Mathilde have been kidnapped and taken to Safin's island on helicopter. Back at MI6, Nomi hands over the 007 title to James as they prepare to head to the island to stop Safin and rescue Madeline and Mathilde. Meanwhile, Safin takes Madeline and Mathilde to his garden, where he cultivates various poisonous plants, including the nanobots used in the Heracles poison. James and Nomi arrive at the island and infiltrate the facility, engaging the gunmen in combat. They manage to capture Obrachev and plan to destroy the place, but they lack enough explosives to accomplish the task. After Nomi's repeated threats, she pushes Obrachev into a pool of nanobots, resulting in his horrifying dissolution. Witnessing the gruesome outcome, the other workers flee the scene. Madeline escapes from Primo's grasp by throwing hot tea in his face. James locates Safin holding Mathilde captive. When Safin threatens both Mathilde and Madeline, James pleads with Safin to spare them if he complies with his demands. However, James surprises Safin by pulling out a hidden pistol and eliminating Safin's guards. Safin manages to flee through a hatch with Mathilde, but the girl bites him, causing him to release her. Mathilde hides until Madeline finds her, and James reunites with them to help them escape. Primo confronts James, but James uses Q's gadget watch to fry Primo's cybernetic eye, causing it to explode and kill him. James then opens the hatch doors to allow the Royal Navy to launch missiles and destroy the facility. James successfully opens the doors to allow the Royal Navy to launch missiles and destroy the facility. However, he discovers that the doors are closing again because of Safin's interference. James rushes to reopen them and confronts Safin, who shoots him and infects him with nanobots designed to target Madeline and Mathilde specifically. Despite being injured, James fights Safin, breaking his arm before fatally shooting him. James then manages to open the doors once more, but he realizes that leaving the island would mean endangering Madeline and Mathilde. James contacts Q, who connects him with Madeline. They share a final emotional moment, expressing their love for each other, and Madeline confirms that Mathilde is indeed James's daughter. Knowing that he cannot leave without putting them at risk, James stands firm as the missiles arrive, obliterating the facility and him. As everyone else realizes what has transpired, James's sacrifice is acknowledged. Back at MI6, M, Tanner, Q, Moneypenny, and Nomi all gather for a toast to James' memory. Madeline drives Mathilde to Matera to start afresh. Along the journey, she decides it's time to share the story of her father, a remarkable man named James Bond. In this way, movie ends here. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe for more interesting movie recaps.